Hey, what's happening? Welcome back to the GM. I'm your guy, Leon Boulanger. And in this video, and probably the next 4 or 5, 6 videos, don't know how far we'll go, but we're going to be dealing with moving forward into the 2023 season for the Baltimore Ravens, which has been a lot harder for me, uh, especially in consideration of the playoff results between the Bengals and the Bills on yesterday. But as a counselor, one thing I tell people is we don't want to get over what hurts us. We want to go through what hurts us. And so, in that attempt, it's time for me to look forward at the Baltimore Ravens roster. Um, kind of taking a analytical look at position groups, salaries, and who also may be salary cap casualties, and what holes we have that need to be filled. So with no further delay, if you hold tight, let me share my screen with you guys and we will get started. So the website I'm going to be using is called Player Profiler, and it's a pretty cool website. I use this one specifically because it puts all position groups side by side, shows you the pictures, their names, and if you click on each player, you'll go to a new screen, which will show you some statistics, year by year breakdown, things of that nature. And so let's start with the most important position group for the Baltimore Ravens, and that is the quarterback position. At the end of the season, Lamar Jackson was hurt. Tyler Huntley suffered some injury as well. Anthony Brown got his first NFL gameplay. And then you have Brett who has spent some time with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the interesting thing about this position group is that none of the guys that we see, Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley, Anthony Brown, or Brett Hundley, excuse me, I think I pronounced his name wrong the first time. Uh, None of them are under contract for next year. So what that means is the Baltimore Ravens have no quarterback going into the 2023 season at this point in time, which is real scary. It's real scary to know that nobody is a signed, ready to go signal caller in preparation for next season. And so each one of these guys uh, have big decisions to make for their career. We know Lamar Jackson is not under contract, and we probably expect the franchise tag to be coming before the franchise tag deadline, middle to late February. And we know that that tag is going to be worth about 45 million at a minimum, which means it would probably be wise for Baltimore to try to get him under contract, but we don't know what that's going to look like. But I will say honestly, I do not think Lamar Jackson will sign or play on the franchise tag for the 2023 season. So getting a deal done is probably going to be the only way the Ravens will be able to go this next year. Uh, when we look at Tyler Huntley, he's been the primary backup over the last 2 years. He has looked good in spots and he has looked poor in spots. So, I don't know what his status is going to be. I know last year they placed a second round tender on him. They'll probably place a second round tender on him again this year, which means, excuse me, in order for somebody to sign him, they'll have to give up a second round pick. But I don't see anybody doing that this year, only because his play was so up and down. And a quarterback who is young and does not have an injury history, he's had some tendonitis in that right arm this year, which makes things a little suspect for Tyler Huntley going forward. Anthony Brown, a young guy who flashed pretty well in the preseason for the Baltimore Ravens, was placed on the practice squad. And then with injuries to the number one and number two, Anthony Brown got his shot and played pretty well in week 18 against the Cincinnati Bengals. But a couple of early mistakes cost us the game. And then we had also, oh my gosh, the fumble for the touchdown by the Bengals that Anthony Brown gave up, and then which cost us the game. in part or whole. And then we got Brent Hundley, not sure what his future is for the Baltimore Ravens. I do not expect him to be the primary backup next year. So it's going to be one of the uh, number 2 and number 3 who will be the backup next year, I believe, between Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown. So, but of course, the biggest question at that position for the Baltimore Ravens is what happens with one Lamar Jackson, whether he signs a long-term deal or he gets traded in a sign and trade type scenario. I do believe that that is on the table, and we will discuss that in some later videos when we talk about trade opportunities. Well, let's go to the next position on this list, which will be the Baltimore Ravens running back position, right? And so we know that the Baltimore Ravens have had a host of running backs this year. And on this list, you do not see Mike Davis, but we know Mike Davis was with the Baltimore Ravens most of the year. But these 4 guys were on the roster at the end of the regular season and the playoff game. And so when we look at this position group, we got J.K. Dobbins, who is the number 1. We know him and Gus Edwards have split time in the rotation, but J.K. Dobbins has shown that he can be a number 1. He can be a every down back, but of course, all season-ending injury last year and some injury time off this year, kind of put things in question this year. Gus Edwards also has had the same type of injury. Of course, missed all of last year and then missed some games this year, even after coming back. Kenyon Drake is a free agent this year, and I do not expect them to bring Kenyon Drake back, although he did show some flashes. And at times, he was the best back on the roster. And then also Justice Hill, who never really dominated at any point in the run game, but did show some flashes, made some big plays, one being a big kick return that was not cashed in by the Baltimore Ravens. But when we look at this position group, J.K. Dobbins certainly will be back unless his end of the year comments about not being in the game and his discontentment with how things were going at the end of the season, unless that cost him his role. Unless they look for a trade. I don't see them looking for a trade in Baltimore, but we know that anything is possible, excuse me, as it pertains to the business of the NFL. The tight ends are trying to peak up a little bit. I believe that's who that is next. But J.K. Dobbins will certainly be back. I believe Gus Edwards may not be back, guys. So we may have a lot of questions after J.K. Dobbins, only because Gus Edwards has a $5.6 million salary cap hit this year. And if they release him, they could save $4.3 million in cap space, which they may need to do that in order to make room for Lamar Jackson's long-term deal. Kenyon Drake, I believe, is 28, and his best days are probably behind him, although we did see some flashes. And if Gus Edwards is gone, they could bring one of these last 2 guys back. But Kenyon Drake is a free agent, and do not believe that he'll be back in Baltimore next season. And then same thing for Justice Hill. We have seen some flashes for Justice Hill, but he's had some injury issues. And he was one of the guys out last year, along with J.K. and Gus Edwards, with severe lower half injury. And so there's a lot of questions in these first 2 position groups between the quarterback and running backs. And so really when we look at it, the only guy that I believe that is a definite to return next year as we have this conversation today is going to be J.K. Dobbins, which makes things a lot unpredictable and uncertain for the Baltimore Ravens fan base and the Baltimore Ravens organization. So those are those two groups. Um, let me know what you think. Um, if you have any opinions on who they should bring back, um, who they should keep, by all means, let me know. Let me get back to the regular screen. And so I got a lot of concerns, Ravens Nation, about who the Ravens are going to have on this roster. That's why in the AFC status ranking, I put them at 6. And if I had to consider the running back position being so uncertain, I probably would have dropped them lower, because we know the Ravens are a run first team and they desire to keep that as their identity, even with bringing a new offensive coordinator. So um, got some concerns. I definitely got some concerns. So you guys let me know what you want me to know. If you like this kind of content, hit the like button on the way out. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We'll keep bringing you this content. I really appreciate you guys. This is the GM, and I'm your guy, Leon Boulanger.